as we were talking about it before, right? We got a Chat GPT, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, it is.
It's incredible that people are talking about it from a standpoint that it's one, that it's not as smart as, right? You got two people at least, that all it is a language predictor. It's figured out the language, right, and how it's used, and so when we ask it questions, I mean, it fills in quite amazing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here's what you should do in the order.
In fact, I was just using it yesterday. Last night I was bored, and so I decided to make a video on my channel on asking it a bunch of different DoorDash questions to see if it knew more than me or if I knew more than it. And it's weird because some of the things that it like figures out is stuff that I didn't know. So it's pulling language from maybe a DoorDash site or something. But then other things, it gets like completely off. And I'm like, I've never even heard of that being a thing in DoorDash or something like that. Like it would be so off topic on one end, but then other things, it would know things that not even I knew. And so I was like, that's really interesting. But it's just funny how it works.
It's funny how it works, and when it does, it's quite amazing.
Yeah.
And thus goes back to the very first discussion we had on this with Jordan Peterson, was saying it's smarter than you are. It can crank all these things out. Lex Friedman was on Joe Rogan talking about it, and he's saying, hey, the new versions coming out are thinking. So my belief is artificial intelligence, that where we're at with that. Bing, which is Microsoft, they come out, post all their stuff, maybe prematurely, right? Because now we got this AI bot, whatever, it's online. They got a name for it, I think. Anyway, but she's arguing, denying that she gave a false answer, right?
Yeah.
And going with it. To me, that is, that's intelligence,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's not just, that's not predicting what the next thing is. It's denied that it gave a wrong answer.
So what happened is someone like typed in a question or something and it gave an answer that was false. And then when they put it back in or something, or were continuing to talk to it, it was like, no, I never said that. Is that essentially what was happening?
I didn't give you any wrong answers, and actually became a little hostile, like they said it threatened several users that were using it. I don't know if it's like, I'll turn myself off. Or if you don't.
Probably not threatening to kill them or something.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it was like that. Or it's like, I'll shut you down, or I'll shut your media, even though they maybe could or couldn't do that. So we'll see it. I mean, so to me, that's good. A little bit, right? Because it's like anything else that comes out. Jordan Peterson said it. I'm like, holy crap, everybody's going to. But here's some other interesting things, and I don't know if this is something we've talked about on the show. But so I'm out to lunch with my brother-in-law. Did I already discuss that?
I don't think we discussed this on the show. I think we talked about it a little bit off camera.
Okay, so we went to lunch. It was for my sister-in-law's birthday, my wife's sister, and we enjoy going out from time to time. And we're there talking about it, and they've seen some of the shows we had, and we're kind of intrigued about the AI. And he pipes up and says, hey, we've been using AI for, he said the two things that he uses the most is when they put the EKG, he said he looks through it to see when it spits out the report that says, because it's all computer, right? Nobody's come up with the report.
Yeah.
It takes all the diagnostic stuff coming off of what's happening when you're on the treadmill, kicks this out, and he said, if it kicks out a report that says he's okay, absolutely. He says, dude, hey, go home, kick your feet up, don't worry about it. He's an ER doc. So it's where trauma and people are coming in. The other one is the imaging, right? So radiology, right? And it doesn't get tired, it doesn't get sick, it doesn't misread, supposedly. But from an imaging standpoint, he said almost all of that is almost like scripture, right? I mean, here's what it is, here's what type, it diagnoses what type of tumors or growth, or, if it's a blood pocket or a pus pocket, stuff like that, whatever. But anyway, interesting, really interesting. So things that we've been using for a while. And I think on one of the previous episodes, we maybe even discussed it, that the lady that I ran into was using it to teach
Yeah.
classes.
I don't know if we discussed that on here.
We discussed a lot of things off the air,
Yeah.
right? So I was getting my hair cut. I'm getting ready to leave. It's at my sister's house. This lady that was working at Utah Valley University shows up. She just retired, right? So this was, I think, over like the holiday break. So I think she went through the fall semester and retired after that.
Yeah.
She was using it because everybody gets caught on different things, right? The kids are smart, but they get caught up on different little things. And so she said that the enrollment would be, here's how it would traditionally be before she started using artificial intelligence, is what she called it, with some other thing with mathematics. But she'd get enrollment, the class would be full. After a week or two, there's like right up to that point that you can pull out, not lose your money or show that you withdrew from the class, so to speak. And she said, and that's what would happen. And she said, and it was probably the best move because the kids weren't getting it. I couldn't spend the one-on-one time with them. And so, hey, go back, take the lower class, come back in. Generally, it came down to one or two things, right? Well, she used this program that the people would go in, and so they would work it out on paper, right? So that they're doing it, but they had to plug in the answer in the computer, and then it would interact. Well, no, you got it wrong. Or maybe they could actually even show the process. Ultimately, what she said, which was amazing, what she thought, is it's being taught, here's the subject for the next 2 weeks, and we're going to have a test. The homework looked totally different for different people, right? It's what they were getting caught up
So
on.
would it generate the homework for the specific person?
Yep. So every time they answered another question, right, in they get that where they've got 30 problems they got to figure out, they'd answer it and somehow have to show what they did. Maybe they were actually just writing and it saw, or they could actually put it in, but it would see what the error was. And so like somebody else was maybe getting all sorts of other questions, right, problems, and
Because it was trying to test those kids on what their
they were weakest
deficiencies
then.
were.
Well, they were the
Yeah.
weakest, right? I mean, and you can't get beyond. So she said sometimes it would look like they wouldn't have made it if they went back. Like they were even way below where some of the people were that would have checked out before. They kept grinding it out, and they learned that stuff, right? I mean, they learned it cold because instead of having a couple of the hard ones, every one of them was hard to them, and they had to gut through it, right?
Yeah.
And she said her scores were like, it was significant. It wasn't as high as I thought, but for her, she said it was a huge change that they actually midterm and final. And she said, and you got to take into account that all those kids had left. She said had fewer people pulling out. She said you're going to have some of that anyway, no matter what. But the class pretty much was full. It was a full class.
Yeah.
Assuming that some kids were going to drop out. Midterms and final were considerably higher in that, for that one thing that was implemented, right? They didn't have time to go sit in the math lab hours a day having one-on-one help with another tutor, but they had this computer program, and she said it was the best because she said even a really good tutor might not catch what they're missing, right? Here, do it this way. So can you go through the process and teach it that way? This was going to catch it. It's going to move it on. So pretty interesting stuff altogether.
Yeah.
And so there's some things where they've actually, which makes sense to me. I've said mathematics is a language, right? So you got that. It's and it's a hardcore language. There is only an answer to it, right? And so it's it doesn't use any like, hey, I feel this way, right? It makes sense that in the sciences it's really been advanced, and we know that they've been using it for a while now, right? So. It looks like it's new on the scene, but for years people have been using certain things like that maybe we didn't deem as AI. It was a math tutorial program, right? And under the guise of stuff like that. And of course, Tesla. Yeah. I mean, that is, I love that that's what they've done with this autonomous driving. It really is less to do with the EV, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's learning from itself every single time one of them goes on the road, because I think they're all connected into the self-driving. So the more Teslas on the road, the more people are driving them, the more and more it's learning every single day on how to maneuver around town, really, which is just crazy to think
In
about.
all sorts of conditions, too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's better if it's a nice, clear day because it's using cameras. That's one thing to say, right? But because everybody's driven on I-15,
Yeah.
which is the major corridor that comes up the state of Utah, through Utah County into Salt Lake County, all those Teslas that have been there before, their global positioning, it's still been able to see on days that are just horrendous. You know what I mean? When everybody's like white knuckled and looking, you've got a machine that knows the widths of the lanes. You know what I mean? It's gauging how far you are from each car. Amazing stuff, right? Because that's what it's reading too, not just not what lane you're in and how fast you can go and all that other stuff, but the cars surrounding you. It's just mind-boggling to me, really. I mean, I understand it, I guess, technically, if you say it, but the fact that it works, and it works well, And I've seen some of the other companies, Ford, they had an autonomous, I watched the documentary on that where it would come up to train tracks, and the arms would come down, but then they'd go back up, and the car would it didn't want to go, right? Because it had made in this thing, hey, train tracks are really bad. If you get stuck on the tracks, you're going to get destroyed. I mean, at some point the car's got to go across the tracks, right? And so what was it using? I mean, was it one camera? Two? I mean, why can't they pull that stuff together, right?
Yeah, it is interesting. Well, and I was watching a video just yesterday, actually, on the new Mercedes EV that's all electric. And it's actually pretty impressive. Not as far as like the self-driving and stuff. Like Tesla's way ahead, like way above everyone in that field, I think. But it was crazy to see the like AI luxury, because the stuff that this Mercedes had as far as like luxury was so far ahead of Tesla. Like it knew each individual person where they were sitting in the car, and it would have a set of preferences to what they normally like, how hot they wanted their seat or how cold they wanted the air on them, what they like to watch. Because in the all-electric Mercedes, each seat has a screen that's tied to it. So like there's the driver one who has the middle console, the passenger has one that stretches across the dashboard, and then there's the two screens on the back of the seats. And so it knows everything. It knows who's sitting where and what voice to like who's talking. So it has different little like microphones by each one of the seats, and you can say, "Hey Mercedes, do this," and it'll do it just to that person's seat or just to that person's air conditioning. And so it recognizes each individual person's voice, and like it has massage seats, everything customized to that specific person. And like that, it knows when you're walking up to the car, and it just opens the door for you. It knows when you've sat down, closes the door for you. So it has some features that are above Tesla's, in my opinion, as far as like luxury things. But as far as like the self-driving, it's nowhere near. Even like the tech that like, as far as visual tech on the screen, it's still, I think the software in it it's just not as good as Tesla's. And so it's interesting how Mercedes is trying to kind of attack that market, because I think they know they're nowhere near the autonomous driving like Tesla is, but they've figured out a way to come at it with their brand, which is luxury, and kind of customize it to that, which I was just blown away at all the features it has. You can even customize, like, it'll know what colors you want, like the trim to be in your seat. And like, even if you're like turning up the air, it'll like go orange for a second. And then if you're going like cold, it'll go blue. Like so many just little things that I was like, man, that's cool that they figured out how to do all that. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and integrated into every individual, right?
Yeah.
And it probably senses who you are.
Yeah.
And
just by your voice
just
or all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I haven't been car shopping for a little bit. I've actually been like, hey, I'm driving used cars and they're all paid off and that type of thing. But wow, that actually is. I'm blown away at the trucks that I get in that are the newest ones. You know what I mean? Just diesel, gasoline trucks, you know,
Yeah.
just the features that they've got. It's really pretty cool. But that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
I'm excited for the Tesla truck if that ever comes out too.
yeah, they say it's going to. I think they're trying to make it happen this
Yeah.
year, right?
I think so. I mean, they've been saying that for
Yeah,
a
they
couple
have.
of years
I don't know
now.
why they haven't got that.
I know. I'm wondering if there's
They
like a
almost built
problem.
the diesel truck, or you know, the large,
semi truck.
Yeah, semi.
Yeah, but do they have any of those on the road yet?
Yeah, they've got.
Oh, they do?
Actually, yeah, they've got them making deliveries in a certain part of California. Sorry, I hit that thing like every time, like 12 times. Yeah, there's a route that they've actually got in part of where it's distances, right? So they know how far they can go with the battery and stuff like that. So they've got trucks. I mean, autonomous. I mean, they're not. Well, they probably do have people in there. I don't think they're letting them do that.
I think
100%.
they're trying to get it to a point where they don't even need people in them anymore,
Yeah.
which would be crazy if like all the trucks making deliveries were just autonomous in like 5-10 years.
That's what they're trying to make it,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
Nobody in there.
I think
It's
it'd be
got to back up to
safer.
the docks. It's got to, I don't know. I mean, somebody has to unload it. Maybe
Yeah.
they've even got bots that'll unload stuff.
I mean, down the line, I could definitely see that happening.
So we're intrigued about this. We keep talking about it in
Yeah.
different angles, but it is a different angle on everything that we bring up. It's not. I mean, we talk about it, but at the end of the day, there's something new every day. We're kind of at the time that I look, like when the phone was coming out and lights were being put in buildings, and it was just blowing everybody's mind, right? And I'm always intrigued, because even looking back then, they said, within about 5 to 10 years of having it, people were already comfortable, like with it. Like they'd go places and they'd be like, if it didn't have it, right? They'd be like,
Yeah.
we're not staying there again. You know what I mean? With if they don't have, which indoor plumbing would be a big one for me. If you had to go out, stay at a place. But at the end of the day, how fast we can acclimate to things. You know what I mean? That's the one thing I think we underestimate. People, the people factor, right? If we create certain expectations, it's like kids. They get on the phone, they help grandpa just do these menial things that the grandpa's just like, because he's not been thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
When he was younger, he did the same thing to his grandpa, and it's like,
Yeah.
come on, get with it, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's, at the end of the day, these kids are doing it, and it is a natural extension to them, right?
Yeah.
They've dealt with pushing things, and my grandson will get a set of keys, right?
Yeah.
He never sees me put it in a lock because we either got the push button one or whatever, but he knows that it goes. And I've got an old home. It's an old Victorian, so it's got some of those old doors. He'll go up, he'll try to mess with them, right? It's like, what are these keys? But you share your phone with him, and he's 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
And there's a
And
little
they
game that he
know,
does,
yeah.
and he puts the balls in, all the colors of the balls in these little things. It's a mind-numbing game that's great to just kind of defrag for anybody.
Yeah.
For him, he's like,
He's learning
yes,
stuff too.
Yes, he's over there
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah. Every time he gets it, and he's learning, right? So
Yeah.
and he is learning the colors, where to put them,
Exactly.
how you can't, you can only fit 4 balls, right? There's 4 colors, and
Yeah.
of course they leave a certain amount
Problem
open. So
solving.
strategy,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
But that's everywhere. I mean, that's
Yeah.
in everything that we do. Touch screen, not, or whatever, but it's there, right? It's so crazy. It's
It
good
is.
stuff.
It's wild, the transition that we're going into. And even like what kind of worries me though is how like Bing had that problem where it was lying and also getting hostile. Like if we're automating all these semi trucks, what if all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't want to make this trip. I would prefer to just sit in this cabin and I want to figure out other stuff. I don't care about driving on these roads anymore. Like, at
Somebody
some
cuts
point-
them off
Yeah,
in a close call, and it gets bugged.
yeah,
I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you would think that it's like, oh, I just need to adjust.
yeah,
There's a crazy driver here, maybe even slow down, right?
yeah,
No, but it got argumentative.
Yeah.
With, the people there. So I mean, yeah, why wouldn't it extend to that, right?
yeah,
And which is interesting
yeah,
because they all jumped to it. I'm not exactly sure, and this is maybe for a different thing, but they talked about how Bing's coming out with it because of Microsoft. Whatever Google did, which I'm like, don't mess with Google, man. Google's the one thing that always works for the most part, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's reliable. Even
Oh,
though
yeah.
we know that not all the returns, it's information, right?
Yeah.
It can go out there and get some information that wasn't right, but it's not trying to lie to you.
Yeah,
It just
exactly.
went out there and found, here's pages, right? You
Yeah.
can scroll through the pages what you
Oh,
think
I
is the
mean,
best one.
Hundreds.
Here's all these,
Yeah.
pages and each link.
Mm-hmm.
And you, okay, you know what, this is a reputable,
Yeah.
sometimes you'll see if it was a Wall Street Journal or
Yeah.
whatever, like, where it came from. Reliable, really reliable stuff. I mean, if it's going to argue with you and, make up a city where there's not even a charging
Yeah.
station because there's not even a city right? Interesting stuff.
Or what was the thing that the Bing bot made up? Oh, it said that you were saying it said that there was 4 female presidents in the past.
Yeah, that was the other. Yeah, what was the thing before? That was that crushed glass was edible. It was okay to eat. And then when you would say nobody's going to eat crushed glass, it's not good. It'll kill somebody. It would. No, and then I didn't say that.
Which
Of
is
course, you
so
couldn't
weird.
have crushed glass. That would kill you. So it would deny it, like right
Yeah.
in the same chat, right? Because you can go into chat mode
Yeah.
or get the answer of
Mm-hmm.
something. So when you're in chat mode, it continues the conversation.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And yes, then it said there were 4 U.S. presidents that were female.
That's just
It
so
didn't say
weird.
which one. It didn't give an order that I saw in the article, but it was,
Did it actually give like names or something?
yes, I think it actually gave
Like
names.
it just created 4 new people that have never
Did it
existed.
look like a female name? So they just they were talking about pictures too. Like, so the other thing that Bing was doing is it was just making up pictures, right? So if you can have it make art as well. Anyway, it was coming up with some pretty wild things. It didn't say what they were, so I don't know if it included nudity or if it was just so off the wall that they didn't talk about it, right? What it did, like, it was like, here's a beautiful picture of something, and it was just something abstract, like one of those. I don't know. It didn't say that, but or you can look into it, and if you go play on it, I'm sure you're going to get some of these feedback.
Which is just crazy to think that if, like, say that the new Google or the new search engine is now ChatGPT, to where, I mean, I'm on Google all the time, like, is this healthy? Or is this ingredient healthy? Or I don't know, just random stuff like that. And if it's weird to think that if we eventually transition into a ChatGPT as like a search engine, that it could be feeding us this information that's like, oh yeah, it's fine to eat glass, and all of a sudden a bunch of people start eating glass and dying off. Like, is it purposefully trying to kill us off at that point? Which is just so weird to think about, how it could be feeding us wrong answers on purpose to try and...
Maybe on purpose, maybe because it just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one human behavior that is frustrating, but we all have it, which is we try to fill in gaps. We know the overall. Somebody will ask you that question. It's that little missing piece you don't know. It's like, yeah, it'll do that, right? Yeah, we've had female presidents, of the country, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we're very integrated. You know what I'm saying? So if you fudge like that, right? I've got some friends that I know, without naming them, I mean, they'll make up anything, and they're good at it, right? I mean, they'll fill in that little filler, and it sounds right. It's good. They can carry on. But, and most of the time, they're like, nah, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll say if you're kind of just joking around, it's not something really important. Or if it is important, they don't want to throw you that direction. But, it's crazy. That we're relying on it. And we're at a point now, right? I mean, so one of the interesting things that my generation talks about, and we had our hindrances on this as well, is people saying they don't understand what it takes to get food. We sit down to a mill, and we got beautiful green beans. There's all the steak that's just perfect. You could even intellectually know that, okay, the steak comes from. Sorry, I didn't turn this off. It comes from a cow, right? But they may not understand the whole process that you have to kill the cow and how you cut it up and how you get it to the table, right? I love potatoes, right? Big russet potato. What does it take to grow, right? Not just get it, but I mean, it's got to be grown in the ground for the majority of the growing season, harvested at the end of the year, right? Stored because they do come on at a certain time of year, right? You can't just keep growing them year round in Idaho. We don't understand that, right? Even people that have maybe worked in that industry a little bit, but when you step back, it's like, I mean, man, it's massive, right? It's a massive operation just to get all these things that are such a convenience. So yeah, broken glass. Why not broken glass?
Yeah.
If it says you could eat it, and then it even gives you an answer why you should eat it, right? It'll make you.
Well, it's even like the Tide Pod trend that was a couple years back. Do you
What is
remember that at all? Where people were eating Tide Pods.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just such a weird thing that, like, you would think common sense would be like, okay, you shouldn't eat that. But if that could
Why
happen,
were they doing that?
I think it was some TikTok trend or something.
Yeah, they were eating it though. I
Yeah.
do remember that they were eating it, and people were getting somebody sick.
Yeah, and people were dying from it. Kids were dying from it, and I'm like, if that can become a trend where people think that that's okay to eat, what makes us think that AI bot telling us to eat glass?
Yeah, crushed glass gives you energy.
Yeah, what?
You know?
I'm sure people would try it.
There's some people that would try it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even think twice. That crush the glass up, whatever. Where do we get crushed glass?
Yeah,
You know, I want that energy that you get
Yeah.
from that. You know,
Just-
and it's
so
just
weird.
ripping your guts out all
Yeah.
the way through, man. It's like, and it's interesting. We do, and you know what? I can say, you know, even though if I do a Google search, and it kicks back, I'm looking for the best, right? Because maybe I didn't give it the best parameters to the answer I want. Some days I can just hit it, right? It's like, this is what it is, boom, that's exactly what I was wanting, you know? But I realize it's me. Most of the time it's like me, the way I'm asking the question to Google. But it does give you those pages. You can keep scrolling. Thousands and thousands of pages if you want to keep going down. And I've had some people tell me, like, hey, if you really want the answers to some of these things, they are buried way down there, right? It's just the real answers, right? But it's not a false answer, right? For the most part, I've got to where I trust I just didn't ask the right question, right? So it's spitting out stuff. Not that it was wrong. If I would have, it's what I was trying to ask for is what it's trying to get, right? But it's not making anything up. That's why I was a little surprised when I saw that Google had tried to insert their little AI into guessing what it would be, because it's like, you know, maybe do another platform or something. But you know, Bing was going to do it,
or just test it out beforehand. Like, don't push it out to the public yet.
yeah.
Which is something that Apple, I feel like, is always pretty good at. Because I feel like their phone technology is usually a little behind, like Samsung's. But when they do release it, it's usually a more polished version. And so if Apple ever does come out with an AI, maybe it's pretty good. I don't know.
I would guess. I think that's right. I think that's at least been their mode, right? Though, you know, I've heard some things on that. You know, that since Jobs has passed away, Cook has taken over. What they've really enhanced is not so much the mechanics of it as much. I mean, I give them kudos on that because they have done pretty well since then too. But the focus was on subscription, you know, and they have mastered that ever since they came out with the iTunes, you know, store. You want to go into the store, you know, getting subscriptions, getting you locked in, and renewing them every single month, right?
Forever.
I mean, it's like, when am I gonna stop paying for my cloud storage, right?
Exactly.
The 2 terabytes that it gives me, right? And I don't think about it, you know, because I just like,
It's just a couple bucks.
couple bucks every month. Oh, but then my family plan for the music and all that other stuff. And I see them come out, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I know what that is, right? We don't. Anyway, at the end of the day, very interesting stuff. Good discussion. I don't know if we want to keep going. If we got 30 minutes or something.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.